Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, reporting to you from the Overflow room, the newly filed Overflow room. Now, we're talking about Rimsky-Korsakov, and I've got a whole pile of Rimsky-Korsakov we need to discuss. However, I'm going to begin this little chat with a public service. I am going to play for you the end of the Russian Easter Overture, the way it's supposed to be done, and it almost never is. Well, some people get it right. David Zinman does it right, and Svetlanov does it right, and Igor Markevich does it wonderfully right. But most performances are miserable when it comes to the tam-tam part at the end. Well, I have a tam-tam, and I have permission to play some recordings, and I've got my little system set up down here. It's not a grand system, but it gets the job done. I've got upstairs, downstairs, and whatnot, and I refuse to talk about audio, so don't even ask me what it is. It works. Here's the thing. Rimsky-Korsakov made a difficult situation for himself by marking the tam-tam part at the end of the Russian Easter Overture mezzo forte, quasi campana, like a bell, like a big deep bell, like bong. That's what he wanted. But you really very seldom get that, especially since in Russia at the time, at least from what I can gather, the kind of tam-tams that most orchestras had were rather small and kind of splashy. They were like big suspended cymbals more than anything else, if you could hear them. But I happen to have this large sucker right here, Wuhan from China. And I have permission to use samples. So here is Capriccio's recording of the Russian Easter Overture with the Berlin Radio Symphony under Mikhail Yorovsky. It's a very good disc, except for the tam-tam part at the end of the Russian Easter Overture. You also get the overture on Russian themes and the Fantasia on Serbian themes, Sadko, the Fantasy for Orchestra, which is wonderful, Opus 5, symphonic poem, and Mlada, the Suite for Orchestra. But at the end, you get the Great Russian Easter Festival. No one's quite sure what to call it. You know, the Grand Pâques Russe in French. But I am going to now play for you the end of the Russian Easter Overture the way I think it ought to be done. I call this my Furtwängler performance in honor of his recordings of things where he's just painfully noisy and vulgar, and I can outdo that anytime. So are you ready? Here we go. Wait a minute. Let me just push play here, and off we go to the races. Now, don't you wish you could hear it done that way? I mean, it's just a crime that we have to put up with these namby-pamby performances of the end of the Russian Easter Overture. I may have added a tam-tam crash or two at the end there, but you know, it's the thought that counts, right? So anyway, I hope that has clarified in your minds what this thing is supposed to be. So now that we've covered that, let's talk about a bunch of operas, and specifically the Valery Gergiev Rimsky-Korsakov opera series, which is marvelous. Really, I think if Gergiev has any claim to a legacy, it's that he gave us really first-rate performances of a whole repertoire of Russian operas that we were listening to in grotty-sounding melodia recordings or things from Bulgaria, or, they just didn't have major label modern productions and modern sound. And they're wonderful. And he did at least 1, 2, 3, I have 5 Rimskys. At least I have 5 here. There may be some others, I don't know. So let's start at the beginning. First we have Sadko. Sadko, which is an opera byline. I don't know whatever that is. Opera byline in 7 tableaux. Sadko really doesn't have a plot. Sadko is just a series of things. But oh, they're such beautiful things. Absolutely wonderful, gorgeous stuff. So Sadko is amazing. And then there's The Maid of Pskov. Now, these historical operas, also known as Ivan the Terrible, Ivan Grozny in Russian, these are wonderful singers. I mean, Vladimir Ognovenko and Galina Gorchakova and Vladimir Galusin and Ludmila Filatova and Eugenia Perlasova. And, oh, yeah, you just go to sleep, with these names in your head. But I don't find Rimsky's historical operas to be as much fun as his sort of fantasy fairy tale type operas. But I mean, listen, we're not complaining. It's still a beautiful performance. So there's that one. And then we have, the Tsar's Bride. The good old Tsar's Bride opera in 4 acts, based on the play Tsarskaya Nevesta. Yeah, whatever that is. And here we've got, let's see, the usual Kirov people. Anybody we know here? Oh, Olga Borodina is in this one. And Dmitry Hvorostovsky. Those are famous people. They're singing in their native language, which is always nice. And so we've got The Tsar's Bride, and the best one of all, frankly, The Legend of the Invisible City of Kitezh. I mean, the actual title is The Legend of the Invisible City of Kitezh and the Maiden Fevronia, which is like, that's why no one does it. It doesn't fit on a playbill, This is such a beautiful opera. The plot is nonsense. There's a city, and it has enchanted thingies, and there's mists and fog, and people wandering around in the forest, and everybody dies, but then they come back to life. And I don't know. I mean, I've tried reading the plot, and it makes no sense to me whatsoever, but the music is gorgeous. Drop dead gorgeous. Not just the suite. I mean, the whole opera. It may be Rimsky's operatic masterpiece. I don't know. It's a great piece. It's a big, big sucker. A big, long thing. I mean, does it tell us how long it is here? Yes, it's 3 hours. 3 hours, 1 minute, and 13 or 15 seconds or something. It's big, and it's long, and it's expensive to do. And, it's just so wonderful. I mean, really, it's a crime that it doesn't get performed more often. Then we have a little one-actor, Kasche the Immortal. Now, Kasche the Immortal is the Firebird. I mean, it's basically the same story. I mean, it's Kasche is the bad guy in the Firebird. So you can dance it, or you can see this little one-act opera. Actually, a lot of Stravinsky's stuff is heavily based on Rimsky-Korsakov harmonically, as well as the stories. These all come from, this is an autumnal parable in 1 act. Rimsky wrote his own libretto for this. Well, that's a cool thing. And it's a little bit over an hour long. Yeah, it's an hour and a bit. And absolutely charming. So these are just, I just wanted to talk about these little operas and mention the fact that they exist. You really need to have librettos so that you know what's going on with them. They're all out of print, of course, although there was a box. They were all jammed together in a box. Maybe you can still find some of them. But it's a legacy, and a really important one. And I just wish that there was more attention being paid to these things. I really do. I'd love to see productions of these. Gergiev and Kirov toured with them, some of them, and that was wonderful. But, they should have some international currency because they're fun to watch, and the music is just lovely. And, anyway, this is what Rimsky-Korsakov's major legacy is, and we should try and pay attention to some of that, aside from just Scheherazade or the Russian Easter Overture with the tam-tam part miserably underplayed, as it normally is. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.